Hi folks, we're Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio, radio, no pictures live stream. Please listen to this presentation in your car or truck as you're driving along, or put in those earbuds as you're on public transport. In this essay, I'd like to talk about the amount of inner city, because it tends to be the inner city shootings where black gangs and the black communities kill each other at quite a clip, actually. And over the Independence Day weekend in Chicago, there was 12, and I think there's another one about to die because they're critically injured. 12 people shot to death, and another 55 who are wounded. And most of them, I don't know if all of them are, but most of them are in hospital, needing some sort of medical procedure, bullets dug out of their leg or their arm or something like that. So a pretty serious sort of weekend. Now, I don't know, that's equivalent to a mass shooting, isn't it? 12 people sort of being shot. In one case, 3 people were shot in one incident, which I think in the US now meets the criteria that they use for mass shooting. And there are illegal handguns being used, and again, rampant sort of. This doesn't include the amount of shootings that occurred on top of this, where nobody was actually injured as a result, but where, say, there was property damage or shots fired through windows, breaking glass, all that sort of thing. That's in addition to these 67 shootings where somebody was killed or injured. Now, you'd think this out of one city, just in one weekend, this is like, wow, this is surely a screaming crescendo, like scream from the rooftops, international headline. Yet only the local suburban news covered it. And even the main news for the city of Chicago didn't mention that. They mentioned in passing that there had been some shootings, but they kind of left it at that. They moved straight on to another story. And the statewide or regional news didn't touch it. The national news didn't touch it. There's no international headlines. There was nothing. You wouldn't even know it had happened. Yet 12 or 13 people got shot to death in one weekend in just one city, and nobody's talking about it. No one's even mentioning it. No one's giving it any airtime. Oh, wow, I can scarcely believe this. Do they just not care about it when black people shoot each other? Is that not newsworthy in any way? I mean, I would think it would be. They're still people, aren't they? So what were the news items? Like, if I look at the international news on that weekend, they can point to that in India there's misogyny is supposedly on the rise. So that was one headline. In another headline, Australian schoolboys don't show enough respect to schoolgirls. This was another. This is a national internet. This is the international section of one of Australia's biggest media outlets. They don't mention the 12, 13 people being shot to death in one weekend in Chicago. That doesn't get any mention, but they will talk about how schoolboys aren't using the proper pronouns of trans people. They'll talk about that as a headline. They're like, this is like the wow, this is the real, this is the big headline. And another similar, there's claim that the gender wage gap's a thing. That's an international headline. So a lot of sort of race, gender hustling type headlines, but only where they can depict white people as being bad, or where they can say generally that men are bad. Like in India, there's misogyny on the rise. They'll do that. But where there's black inner city gangs shooting each other, and where there are more than 100 incidents of gunfire downtown and shooting, that doesn't even, nothing, not even a byline, not even a little story at the bottom, nothing at all. So we've got a media that is conspiring and acting in concert to shut down any comment on this and any observance of it, and any coverage or highlighting of the massive problem of black people shooting each other with illegally obtained handguns. That's just, they just don't want to talk. It doesn't fit the narrative. They don't want to talk about it, which again is an illustration of just how controlled media is, how narrative controlled and centrally controlled it is, if something this big isn't talked about. But if there's a white man somewhere who misgenders somebody, or then that is a headline. So that's how crazy the times are that we live in. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.